What's going on, everybody? Tuesday morning, May 3rd. Mike McFarland here, sitting in the corner. Did not fish the last 2 days. Had thunderstorms, had lightning to start the mornings off. And after the death a couple of weeks ago, quite fearful to be out in that kind of stuff. So, gonna give you a little rundown. Was not on the water yesterday, was not on the water today. But that's all right, I still got some good information for you. All right. General water temperatures, because I wasn't on the water and don't have an exact temperature for you, they're ranging in the main lake 68 to 70 degrees. When I give you this first water temperature, most of the time I'm giving you the main body, and it's when I'm on the water, it's what I see. And sometimes I give you the morning temperature and then the warm trend throughout the day. But basically that's the first 18 inches, the subsurface water temperature. The clarity, it's 0 to 1 right now. With the last 2 days of pretty big thunderstorms and heavy rain, it has changed. It's changed everywhere. I have been on the water, so I would assume down south still has some clarity. That's where you're going to see that 1, maybe 18, 24 inches of clarity down south. But most everywhere else, especially in the backwaters, the back creeks, it's dirty. My pond, I got a 3-acre pond, and it went from clear to mud. It's just chocolate soup. Okay. The lake was at the end of the week last week in the 397.08, 07-ish. In the last 2 days, it's come up from 397.10 yesterday, 397.20 today. So we're looking at 2 inches, at least an inch and a half of increase. That's why I put the green arrow circled. That means rising. The water is rising. Perfect time for it. The spawn is happening. There's fry beginning to be around, and there's no better time to get a little extra water on them. There's also a lot of bedfish, so I really believe that those bedfish aren't going to relocate. So if we can get a little increase on where they are, they get harder to see. Fishermen can't pursue them. It's really, really good for the whole all-around health of Lake Fork. Okay. So a few things I want to talk to you about today. First thing is the weather again. It's still the rising effect of the lake. I mentioned it's healthy for the lake, but when the water rises, fish rise, and especially if you get a big rise. An inch or so is not that much right now with low lake, but generally rising water rises fish. It brings them up. It brings them up into that fresh, cool water. It brings them up into the debris. If you really flood and the lake gets high, goes up and back into the brush and the buckbrush and the cover, man, they really come out of the woodwork. They love to go right up in there. In fact, we call it counting the ants. They can get so shallow with a big rise that they're right on the bank. And so the reason I'm talking to you about this is anybody coming this week, I want you to be prepared for shallow fish, okay? The weather right now, tomorrow, will be 45% chance of some more rain, thunderstorms, 69 for low, 85 for a high, winds south-southeast, 10 to 15 miles an hour. Thursday, we have a 95 to 100% chance of rain again, pretty heavy rain, potential for heavy downfall. 57 low, 77 high, south-southwest, 10 to 15. So by the end of this week, you're going to really have potentially some changing lake with the lake level. Okay, we talk every Thursday. I'll be giving you another rundown on Thursday, and so I'm going to leave it right there for now. I'm not going to tell you the weather for Friday, Saturday, and it's always so susceptible to adjusting. The weathermen here, I can't say they don't do a very good job. It's a really difficult thing to project, but most of the time what they say is supposed to happen doesn't even come close. And then here's a rule of thumb on Lake Fork. If they say 10 miles an hour, double it. Just double it. You got the lake effect, the open water effect, but just double whatever they say. All right, so we'll see you again on Thursday for that part of the report. But now let's talk about fishing. The fishing has actually been really good for Brooke and I. And I don't mean that to sound arrogant. We've been very blessed. We're very lucky. It's great to have my best friend, and together we have really so far had an incredible season. There has been just day after day after day of catching the fish and catching the right fish and catching the big fish when I know a lot of others are not. I had a great conversation with one of the Texas Parks and Wildlife yesterday, one of the main sheriffs for our lake. And he concurred that with the low lake, fishing's been really, really, really tough. So first thing is, I feel very blessed that for us, again, I'm not an arrogant person, it hasn't been that tough. We've been crushing it. And I know there'll be times when it comes up and down. February for me was miserable. I had 14 days without catching anything. So I'm grateful that we're crushing it. But what I'm leading you into is something more important. Because of the low lake conditions and my background on the West Coast, I'm used to lakes that drop 2 feet overnight, irrigation type lakes. I fished in Mexico hundreds of times where they change overnight. And I think that's to my credit, to my experience, to making the right decisions and staying in the right places and understanding a little bit more about lower lakes. Not that I'm better than anybody, because I'm not, but I have more experience in that. So another guide potentially had said that to me. He said, wow, you're really thriving when most aren't. And again, I'm grateful, but it comes down to understanding what fish do in low water conditions. But I'm leading you somewhere. The lake's been fishing really, really tough. And I understand that emotions get high and the lake fish is smaller and really fishermen in general just start to not get along. When you're out there all day long, not catching fish, when you're out there day after day as a fishing guide, not catching fish, especially when you see someone else catching fish, it's hard to swallow. But the bottom line is, and I mean this extremely seriously, this is very, very loud that I'm going to say this to the public and to every single guide on this lake. I spoke very clearly and very openly with the sheriff. And the nonsense of pushing people off of fishing holes, the nonsense of crossing boundaries, the nonsense of muddying up fishing holes when someone's on it is absolutely illegal. It's a Class B misdemeanor, and it's game harassment. It's game fish, just like in the deer hunting world. You go mess someone's tree stand up, you can and will be prosecuted. So this is for the public people. If you're on Lake Fork, we love you. Thank you so much for coming here to Lake Fork. If somebody, another public, another person, another guide, and you're sure it's a guide, is harassing you, if they're pushing on your water, if they're bad-mouthing you, if they're saying something out of line and you feel harassed, film it with your phone, take a picture of their boat, take a picture, try and include the Texas numbers or whatever state numbers they're from, and make a call to the Texas Parks and Wildlife. The sheriff yesterday informed me that he would absolutely act, and it'd be strictly really up to you whether you want to press charges or not. Okay? I have cameras running on our boats all the time now, and we will not tolerate this any longer. We love every single person that comes to Lake Fork, public, clients, and we respect all guides, but that is unacceptable and will not be tolerated any longer. Okay? So that's how you handle it. Don't instigate it. Don't even say anything back to them. If someone's doing this to you, zip your mouth, film them, and make a call to the Texas Parks and Wildlife. End of story. Okay? That's it. So that should put this all behind us. Let's all really get along. It's a beautiful lake. It is going to come around and start fishing a lot better. It really will. The rising water, the fresh, I feel like Mother Nature's a month behind. Mother Nature is weird. We don't really know anything about it like we think we do. The weatherman's been following the weather for 100 years of 4.3 billion, and we act like we know what we're talking about. We don't. We don't have a clue. So, but what I can tell you as a guy that's on the water 250, 300 days a year, fisherman, is that rising water in this time of year is not, we normally have all that water in April. I feel like May is going to be April. We're going to get a bunch of water. We're going to get a bunch of rain, and it's going to get better, okay? The fish are spawning still. When they finish spawning, they're a lot easier to catch, okay? They're post-spawn. They go into typical routines. Bass live, all fish, all creatures, all Mother Nature's wild creatures live for two reasons. Number one, survival, and number two, to procreate. So when bass come out of the deep waters of winter, the first thing is to procreate, go make babies. Once they've done this, then it's about survival, and survival means eating. And a bass is very much a very big predator. It loves to eat. It wants to eat. We make a statement and say, oh, they have to eat. No, they don't. They can go dormant. They can turn their body off like a snake. They can go to cooler places. But believe me, they want to eat. And they're going to choose to eat more often than go dormant. So the bite's going to get a lot better. And let's tell you what's going on right now. So the fishing report right now is there are spawning fish. There are post-spawn fish. And the shad spawn continues to happen. So if you're out there looking for bedfish, get halfway back in any of the creek's arms. You're not going to see them. Go real slow. Use your forward imaging if you have it. Texas rig, creature baits, jigs, wacky worms, Senkos, things like that can catch those fish. If you're looking for the shad spawn, that's your best bet because you have a lot of feeding fish. Remember, those fish that show up to raid the shad are there to eat, not to spawn. Spawning fish can be difficult to catch. Fish that are coming to the dinner table are there to eat. So when you're looking for the shad spawn, look for the birds, white egrets, blue herons, diving seagulls, diving terns. Our loon birds are pretty much gone, so you're not going to find any loons. But your best bait in those shad spawn areas is going to be spinner baits, square bills, small swim baits, small underspins. Really, when I say small, be careful of that. Watch the size of the bait. Watch the birds. When the bird smacks in the water and he comes up with a bait, look at the size of it. And if he's got little tiny bait, you want to be throwing tiny bait. Match the hatch. If he's coming up with bigger bait, you want a bigger bait accordingly. But another bait that's really kicking off right now too is topwater bite. So be sure to have yourself some topwater baits tied on this time of year. If it's really windy, you're probably not going to get to throw much of those topwater baits. But be aware that topwater bite is out there for the taking. Okay. Also, what I really found here is the post-spawn fish are starting to show up in some really cool places, more beginning to get into their, not summer places, but pre-summer places. They're coming back out after they spawn, and the jigs and the big worms, it's almost time. I generally like to see that water temperature be about 74 before I start throwing the jigs and worms, but we're a little goofy in the weather patterns this year, a little bit behind. There are post-spawn fish. We did catch fish on football jigs last week, big ones. So, all right, a couple of things I want to tell you too. I'm going to bring a little special guest in. Actually, I did this for the members only, but we're going to bring her in tonight to tell the public about this awesome gal friend of mine. And we're going to tell you about that top water stuff. But let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and bring her in real quick, and then we can close. One of my best friends, Bass Lady Brooke, is going to tell you right now about how cool the top water bite can be.
And how heartbreaking.
And how heartbreaking,
And
yes.
very heartbreaking.
Yes. So you didn't know I was going to bring you in on the public.
No, I did not. I was not expecting
I'm surprising her. Remember, guys, a couple things. This is my best friend, Bass Lady Brooke. Brooke Maurer. Just as good a fisherman as any man I've ever known. Runs her own boat. She's got no fear. She goes out there in the 2, 3 foot, 4 foot waves when most wouldn't. She's a real deal.
Heck, that's when I usually catch my biggest ones.
That's right. She's a real deal. And passion really makes that happen. She wants to fish for a living. She's going to be fishing for a living. She's going to get to do it the rest of her life. And so tell them a little bit about, just shortly, the experience. I took her out the other day, and she did not have a lot of topwater faith.
No.
She likes topwaters, buzz baits, things like that, but she'd never really realized, Kit Kat saying hello to you. She'd never realized the potential for giant fish. Giant, I mean, when I say giant fish, I'm
giant. Oh my gosh.
double digit fish. Back to back. So let's first of all, before we let her kind of tell her sad story, remember Lee Livesay last year in May had 40 something pounds on the final day. Most of his fish came on top water. So I take her out the other night. And we got this on GoPro footage, but we're working the top waters a little bit. And
I haven't rewatched it yet.
Yeah, and really it kind of started out funny. Brooke has a kind of rough shoulder, and so for her to work the bait can really be a little hard on her. She got to build some muscles for it. I'm gonna tell you, anybody, if you walk the dog, you're gonna learn to build muscles. You just don't go do it. And so we were joking around, and she said, well, my right arm's stronger than my left arm, so what if I turn the reel upside down? And then I could walk it with the right arm.
Just to see if I wanted to use a left-handed reel in the future.
It was really cute because she starts reeling backwards and she looks kind of like a dork. And boom!
What's new? What's new?
Yeah, right. But lo and behold, boom! A big, probably 6-7 pound fish blows up on it, and now we got a fish
And
on.
I'm here.
And so I'm gonna let you kind of take over there, and from there it got nuts. But
yeah, nuts.
So she's got this. I'll finish this part. She's got this reel backwards, going backwards, and I'm trying to help her, and I'm telling her,
flip it over,
flip it over, try and get changed. And of course, that fish shakes free, gets away, and immediately now, I'll let you take over. We flip that reel over, and it's, man, she realizes, holy cow.
So that gave me confidence in top water. I've just never really thrown it much because my shoulders are pretty bad just from past cattle and vet experiences. And so flipped the rod over like I should have in the first place. And what was it, like next cast?
It was game on.
Next cast, they started just coming up, feeding, and I cast it out, and bait just disappeared. And so I'm like, okay, here we go.
Toilet flush.
Yeah. And so I reeled it in and just swept the rod over like a crankbait hooks up pretty much. And this giant jumped up and showed itself, and I just buckled. And I just don't have much experience with topwater, and it showed. It showed.
I really wish that fish would have been, she's been wanting a double digit with all her heart. She's got real close, a lot of 9-pounders, as most of us. There's guys that have fished this lake for 30 years and never caught and landed that double digit. The double digit fish is very smart, very wise, and knows what to do to get away. And so when this fish came out of the water, it was excessive 11 pounds. I saw the whole fish, clear as a bell, had the full-blown chested right from the gill plate. This was the real deal, and I think that it spooked her.
Yeah, it did.
It just spooked her, and the craziest part is there was about 2 or 3 more following that after that one got away.
Yeah, so that one came off, and then my bait came back up to the top, and I just started walking it again. And then it gets taken again, same cast. And then that one wrapped me up around a stick. And
Yes.
then we had to go in there and try to get it. But it broke off the lure anyways, and that's the only one they were biting.
Yeah, so remember this. I think I brought her in from number 1 to let you guys public see her and say hi. She's
and
part
tell my heartbreaking story again, I guess.
She's part of McFarland Fishing, and she will be forever. We're business partners. We're best friends. We're going to be filming together. We're going to be doing some television and things in the very future together. I'm really excited. Big YouTube channel, even coming, increasing to potentially a 3 million person following. And so just exciting to introduce you to her. But I want you guys to realize a couple things. Number 1, it doesn't matter who you are, man or woman, small or big. She's throwing an 8-foot rod right now with a big top water. She's throwing a 25-pound test on it, and she's walking the dog. And if you don't think you can do that, if she can, you can. How about you, kitties? But remember, a couple things with topwater lures is sometimes the fish wins more often with a topwater lure, even though you got all those treble hooks hanging and stuff. You don't have to set the hook. The biggest, most important thing is just keep that rod loaded. And I do it. We all make the mistakes. We kind of go up and down with our fish when they're really big.
And that's where I messed up.
I mean, I've done it, or you got the fish on and you begin to reel. When you begin to reel, you drop yourself back down, and that rod unloads and unloads, loads. And that's really, those bigger fish are shaking, popping. There is more than a half a gallon to a gallon of water going through their gills. They want that bait out their mouth. And then secondary, they're going to go for something. I've had some of the biggest fish on the lake literally always go for the power poles. They're going to go because they know by seasoning and experience that if they can wrap around something, they're probably going to get away. It's happened to them before. Biologists have said that in the studies, a 6-pound bass has probably been caught as much as 12 times already in its life. But after 6 pounds, it may or may not ever be caught again. So they've learned. And those big fish will break your heart.
Yeah.
I wish it would have been
My
on a jig.
heart has been broken here multiple times.
The way this school schools them on a jig or Carolina rig or Texas rig, I wish that particular moment would have been on one of those baits, because I know she would have done a little better and put that double digit in the water. But listen, please, root, for Brooke Maurer. Find her on Facebook, Brooke Madison Maurer, Bass Lady Brooke, hashtag Bass Lady Brooke. Follow us. Give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying everything. And listen, in a few minutes, I'm going to bring her in on the members only. And if you aren't a member, you should be. So members only subscription is $4.99. And we've told you a little story about what's going on in these big fish. And but if you want to know exactly what we're doing, not only exactly what we're doing, the how-to, the techniques, the bait, and even the location, okay, then you need to subscribe. Members only channel, please subscribe to that. It's really easy. If you're on your desktop or your laptop, just hit the join button on any one of the videos for the YouTube channel, including this one. Just hit the join button, follow the procedures, you'll be a member. We appreciate it very much. As just a regular public subscriber, I truly, truly appreciate you very, very much. Thank you so much. Hit the like button, make the comments below. If you're coming out this weekend, have a really, really good time. Be safe. And listen, if you want to learn something more, I got a few dates. I got May 19th, May 23rd, half of June, not quite half. There's about 8 to 10 days left in June. July's filling as well. But we start really pushing offshore. Deep shell beds, a lot of time behind the sonar. If we ain't seeing them, we ain't fishing for them. And I'd really love to show you that. All right. Another thing, and I'm going to let you go. If you're also coming here and you're looking to book in June, you're looking to book in July, two of my favorite places to stay. Number one, Lake Fork Marina Motel. Okay. It's a 5-star on the lake. Managed to perfection. Has a perfect fishing shop that looks like Bass Pro. Has LaBelle's Restaurant, which serves you incredible food. My oh my, the pies. All kinds of pies. But 5-star stay. And then I don't have a brochure for it, but my best friend, Rich Stringer, retired police officer Rich Stringer, owns the Burning Stump Lodge. So those are my 2 best choices for you. Check them out if you're coming to stay. Thank you so much. And thank you, Brooke, for being my buddy, fishing partner for life.
Thank you.
And coming on the show. You guys take care. God bless and great fishing.